Your face all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hot.
Here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
HD Radio.
Broadcasting around the world on the World Wide Web. This is
HD Radio.
your number one internet radio station.
In your face all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it
HD Radio.
Broadcasting around the world on the World Wide Web. This is
HD Radio.
your number one internet radio station.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Indeed, this is In His Grace and Mercy. I am Pastor Kekana. I am Dr. Kekana. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Let me welcome you this evening. Let me welcome you again on In His Grace and Mercy Enlightenment Corner. I am Dr. Kekana. I am Pastor Kekana. Let me tell you, on In His Grace and Mercy Enlightenment Corner, we are live on Sauma HD Radio every Thursday evening, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Here we discuss diverse issues, legal concerns, legal issues, medical issues, the societal issues, justice issues. So where we air our views, we call experts to come and break down certain things that could be a challenge for us as the nation or society. And we get answers. We are able to also interact with you. You can find us live on In His Grace and Mercy Facebook page and YouTube page. The handle is In His Grace and Mercy. We're live right there, where you can ask us questions and we get the expert who is with us in the stereo to answer the questions you're posing. But our main broadcasting platform is Sauma HD Radio. You catch it wherever you are. You just say www.saumahdradios.co.za. You can also actually send us a WhatsApp for whatever question that you have. We have a WhatsApp line dedicated for only Enlightenment Corner. You can send a WhatsApp anytime after the topic has been discussed or aired, because these are remaining as a podcasts on those Facebook and YouTube handles I've alluded, In His Grace and Mercy. So the line is 076-386-7025. 076-386-7025. That's our WhatsApp number. So you can drop us a WhatsApp there. We'll be able to also read your question in case you are listening to us on Sauma HD Radio and you don't know how to raise your questions or how to address your grievances. You can do that through that for the topic that is at the moment. So this WhatsApp line works for Enlightenment Corner only. So that works only for Enlightenment Corner. So thank you. So today we are doing part 2. So today we are doing part 2. We are doing part 2 of deceased estate. We addressed it last week and we've anchored it. There were so many things to address because we wanted to sort of be educated broadly and adequately. So we then said that we'll do part 2, where we continue where we left off with deceased estates, because this is a challenge. It's also a challenge for me to understand. As much as I'm in academia, that's not my field, so I don't understand much about it. You'd be surprised. So good evening for those that are joining us on Sauma HD Radio, those that are joining us from YouTube. We can see you. We appreciate you. You can share, you can like, share with other people. This is a free information that we're giving it to you for free. So please give to others for free. I'm sure if you press that share button, it's not gonna take your data or damage your phone or introduce your phone to any viruses or whatever. Share. Just share. So now today we'll continue. So before we continue, let me invite Almighty God to be able to enlighten us, to give us the spirit of being educated, that we teach everything under the kingdom and under the guidance and the wisdom of God. ngicela nje ngithandaze bese I'm going to introduce my guest lana, looking awesome in the studio. Ngicela nje sivale amehlo. Dear Lord, this evening we ask you once more, Lord, to lead, to enlighten us, to be the Lord, as we are about to teach, Lord, as we're about to educate, impart knowledge, Lord. God, we cannot do anything without you. So we invite you to be with us, Mudimu. We ask this in the beautiful name, the name of our Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Good evening, Bagiti. Good evening, Bagiti. Let's welcome you again, our estate attorney, or Usis Koni, all the way from Pretoria, who was here last week to educate us. And before we start, I want to thank you once more in your busy schedule to take time to educate people. We know that time is money, but you're giving time without any remuneration whatsoever. What you get is a golden handshake and a thank you. And we like to acknowledge your time. We like to respect your time. You could have been spending with your family because your schedule is squeezed. But we thank you that you have honored the invite again. For us, it does not come as if you will agree. It comes because we are humbly asking for your time and you've agreed. And we'd like to thank you. Nkalanje, in short, reintroduce yourself again. As you introduce yourself, I'm going to share your details on the screen where people can find you so that it becomes easy for them. And thank you very much, everyone who has joined us. And then what I'm also going to do is that when you introduce yourself, please answer this question for me. The executor of the will, must the executor of the will be a legal personnel or a simple family member? I'm going to ask a question. So when I'm going to ask it again. I like doing that. So when you have an executor of the will, because now we're talking about estates, deceased estates. So when you appoint the executor, so firstly, if there is no will, explain to us how does the executor come in. And when you have a will, the question is, does the executor of the will have to be a legal personnel, i.e. your lawyer, or it can just be one of the siblings or one of the family members? Please introduce yourself as you nicely answer that question. Over to you. Good evening. Thank you again.
Okay, good evening, everyone, again. My name is Attorney Ntsoko. I'm a practicing attorney. I'm practicing at Harankua in Pretoria. And I think that's enough for introduction. I don't want to talk about my credentials but for this purpose, I'm an attorney. I specialize in family law and especially this administration of deceased estates. Now, in answering the question asked by the pastor, the executor actually it's somebody who runs the administration of the estate. That is a person appointed to take control of all the assets and make sure that all the debts or all liabilities of the deceased have been paid. Just taking control and running everything to make sure that it is distributed according to the law. Now the question comes, does a sibling know how to distribute in terms of the law? What is the required? Because there are also processes involved. Like I explained last week, after letter of executorship has been issued, the executor needs to advertise in the newspaper, local newspaper where the deceased was residing, as well as the government gazette, to advertise, to give a notice to creditors that everyone whom the deceased owed needs to contact the executor at this place or phone number or whatever, where they can lodge their claim against the estate. Now, an ordinary person is not able to do all that. But when it comes to appointment, the master of the High Court, remember, let's start with the will. Where there's a will, the will nominate who the executor will be. So whoever is assisting the deceased to draft the will, I'm not talking about a will which you buy at CNA and it's pre-printed, you just fill in. Those are the problematic ones because you buy a will and you'll complete whoever you want to complete. But then it's not a train smash because when you present that to the master and the master finds that it is a valid will, it has been properly executed, signed on all pages, signed in the presence of two witnesses, and it's correct. The master will not change and say, no, you can't appoint, you can't be appointed as the brother to be the executor. They will appoint you, but the master will require that you sign over a power of attorney to somebody who will do the work of an executor for you. Like you will have to get an attorney, and then the power of attorney that you present and say, okay, I have appointed Attorney Ntsoko attorneys as my agents, and then they will do the work for me. Then the master will say, okay, you've got somebody who will do the executor's duties for you. Then they will appoint you. The letter of executorship will come in your name, and you will be the one accountable to the master. But then they will accept because you have confirmed that you have appointed somebody that will assist you with the administration. So anybody can be
Okay.
appointed as executors, even when there is no will. I'll tell you, like 95% of the estates that I do ever since are people that came because they did not have a will. Those are the most ones that we get. So we will appoint,
Yeah.
when we complete the documents, the surviving spouse or whoever the child that is nominated by other children will be appointed, but they will sign a power of attorney to me to say this is the one.
Yeah.
And because I'll be reporting the estate for them at the master will see from my letterhead that I confirm that I've been appointed to assist the executive, but the master will appoint the person who is a family member as the executive. But they know that everything they will write to me and say, this has been taking too long. What is happening? You know, that closes it all. The fact that someone has confirmed. But I want to also confirm that they they call us agents. We are the executor's agent. We are acting on behalf of the executor to do the
Yeah.
work. But it's not only an attorney, it can be the bank, because most banks do that. When you do your will at the bank, they will ask you to nominate the bank as the executor. Because the reason they are helping you with the will is that the administration thereof comes to them when a person dies. Now, it's attorneys, it's the banks or other trust companies. There are trust companies which are trained to do that. They are not banks, they are not attorneys, but they are registered with the Fiduciary Institute of South Africa to do the deceased estate. They are qualified to do that. But then you can choose
Okay.
any other
So,
person to represent you
mhm.
if you are nominated as the executor and you don't know what to do.
All right. So what I want to go to now, being brought by that question, is that once you have appointed an executor, which can be anybody, you said that's fine, and then you go and appoint an attorney who is going to be sort of facilitating that process. In that interim, because now we know that we have to open an account with a certain bank if nominated by the person while they're still alive, well and fair. But in that process where everything has the estate of the deceased has to be in one account altogether. At that time, who is the owner of that account? So I'm asking this. Let me tell you why I'm asking. Is because I've heard people saying, listen, the executor with the legal personnel, once everything is changed into their names, some of the properties are being lost because now there's certain amounts that have to be paid so that there can be a change of ownership of whatever property of the deceased and everything. And and the attorneys are charging pro rata, meaning they are not charging, as you have educated us last week, that they charge on the outcomes of the case when the case is finalized. Actually, so that means that the person, the people who are going to inherit the deceased estate needs to have money to pay the attorney in the process, even before they know whether I left 3 rand or whatever. Is that so? So the first question is this: do everything that is being put in an estate account, who is now the principal owner or facilitator, or who is in charge of that account, on whose name is that account? Can the attorney who is appointed as a facilitator or as an agent to facilitate the estate, can they steal some money or change things so that they can own things? Because the fear we have is that if I don't divulge to my family that I've got this cover of this much, so therefore I don't tempt them to try and get rid of me to gain that. If I don't divulge, the lawyer can get away with it because in essence, nobody knows. Please tackle those issues that I have. Then we'll get to other questions. Thank you.
Okay. You asked so many things. I'll try to remember, and you can help me if I left something out. Now, in terms of the I forgot some of the questions. I'll try to state the process in while I'm doing that. I think
Yeah.
you'll be answered somewhere. Once the letter of executorship is
Yeah.
issued, an estate later account must be opened. Remember, I said the duty of the executor is to take control of all the assets of the deceased. But because now, in this instance, the executor who is appointed is maybe the spouse, um, a 70-year-old woman who doesn't know what to do. She'll have to hand over, by power of attorney, the task of the executor to the attorney to do for them. That's number one. Now, if I'm being given the powers to administer the estate, it's not without conditions or reservations. I'm taking full control on behalf of the executive. I will
Oh,
open the
yeah.
estate late account. I will collect
Mhm.
all monies. Remember last week I mentioned that even the banks are aware they cannot pay to the wife because she's got a marriage certificate, or to someone because they've got the same surname. They can only pay into the estate late account. That estate late account, we are accountable to the master. When you finalize the estate, the master will say, let me check your liquidation and distribution account against the bank statements of the estate late account. Everything is there. The master will be able to see what went into the account and what went out. But when you talk about the executor collecting, remember, we are also not machines. We deal with assets that we were given by the family. I will not all of a sudden wake up and know that this deceased had money somewhere where the family doesn't even know. We don't know these people that passed away. We are given the information by the family members. So they know. They come with bank statements and say, this is what our parent had, or my husband had, or my wife had. They will know what they have. I will have what they know. I cannot have any other thing. That is why it happens that once the estate is finalized, they will come back and say, we received this letter. Apparently, there's something else somewhere where we didn't know. Then we'll assist them to deal with that as well. We cannot know what the person had if it's not written anywhere. Right.
Okay.
So I'm trying to answer that thing of saying, what if the attorney can know things that the family members do not know? But what I can tell you, I don't know, we work differently. I've got my way of working. On the first consultation with the family, I go through the bank statement of the deceased with them. And I'm with my experience, I'm able to pick up some references and say, this reference I know it relates to maybe some shares at Saso. This is the reference normally they use on the bank statements. I know those things. I will say, do you know that this person had shares at Sasol. No, they don't. I can see that. And then I show them. So when they leave, we already went through the statement to see, because the bank statement to me, it gives all the information, especially if you bring a 3 months bank statement or 6 months, we can see what was happening in the last 6 months. If it's not there, it means it was not part of his life. But the bank statement can reveal everything. You can see what went in, what went out, what the person was paying for. Because some debit orders, where I always insist on investigating all the debit orders that I see on the bank statement. If it's not payable, it's not payable. If it's something that lapsed on death, like this legal wise thing, it there's nothing payable. But if I see it, I'll tell them this needs to be closed, because it's just for when you have legal matters. It's not like there's money that's going to come from legal wise. It only protected you at that time when you have, and then it ends when you pass away. So we just need to notify them this person has passed away, and they need to close whatever they had with him or her.
Oh, okay, so it's let me educate people a bit and let me give them nuggets, then we'll continue. So
Okay.
what you just said to me is that it's very important that whatever you do must be traceable through your bank account. So what you're saying to me is that it's very important that whatever you do, if it can go through your bank, and your people obviously should know the bank you use or the banks you use, but let it go through the bank. It will be traceable for you, because now you realize that life cover that you didn't want to tell them about, they'll be able to pick it up if you pay through your bank. It comes out as a debit order. It doesn't matter if you're a business person or you have cash that you do things with. Try to make everything have a fingerprint. I always call the bank a fingerprint, because if something goes through the bank, we can retrieve it at any given point in time. Now, the follow-up question to you knowing that I have certain things is this, and I'm going to address the questions on the column. I can see I want to clean this information quite proper before we go on. This is what now happens. Do you advise that the lawyer that I have should be the one that handles the will? Because obviously the lawyer will know, and the will state what I have, and that lawyer will know things that I have, i.e., he will possibly know, or she will possibly know, that I have a life cover somewhere, or I've got investment somewhere that needs to give my children money, because on the will is going to say money from what, this and this and sources and everything. One, is it advisable that the same family lawyer or attorney or advocate is the one that deals with the estate of the deceased? Because there are certain things that I would talk to my lawyer, I wouldn't talk to my kids, so that they don't act reckless or act in a way that they will be able to assess that quicker than they should. There are some kids that will know there's this money that is put for me, so now when they calculate that and the inflation rate on whatever, they said, no, look, I don't have to work. I mean, I know once this man chucks out, I've got 10 million, I've got 20 million that I can start a business with. Or I just have to keep my life on a half glass, so to speak, because this man looks like he's coughing a lot lately. You understand what I'm saying? So there are things that the lawyers know that kids don't know. Same way there are things that the doctors would know and your family does not know. So do you advise that the same lawyer who knows the will, or who you have signed the will or legalized the will or authenticated the will with, I don't know which word you use, is the same one that dissolved the estate of the deceased? What is your take on that?
That question, I wouldn't be sure how to answer it. But anyway, I'll say I think it's best that, remember now, I need to tackle it like this. The person who died is the one that chose that lawyer to take care of his assets when he passed on. Right. So the siblings, they don't fit in anywhere. If I have a relationship with my client and they trust that I will do their things properly, the trust has been gained by the deceased himself or herself. They want me to run their things. So if he chooses me, everyone that comes as a beneficiary will have to deal with me. Like whether they like me or they don't have a choice. Not even the master of the high court can say, I cannot do that. They can raise a
Yeah.
complaint as much as they want, but it was the choice of the deceased that I run their assets. If I'm not an honest person and not divulge all the information, that is for me to, that will eat me up. And I don't think that is possible. The reason you give someone your trust or you trust someone with everything you have, they will not betray you. And I wouldn't say you can't use the same lawyer that did the estate to administer. Remember, if I draft a will for you, I'm not going to nominate another attorney as the executor. You want me to run it. So my name will be there as the executor. Obviously, we don't force, but I'm saying the reason you came to me is because you wanted me to take care of your things. You wanted me to be your executor. Unless you specify, I need you to assist me with drafting a will, but I need to nominate the bank. That is not a problem. We'll do that because I will get my fees for drafting that will. We don't do it for free. I'll charge you for that. And you can go and get the bank. But remember, in most cases, like I told you, when you do your will with the bank will be the executor. And that's how it works. I don't see why would you want another lawyer because you think they know too much. They think they know too much for the sake of the deceased. Because the deceased chose them because they wanted them to know everything and do things according to the way they want, not because of the way beneficiaries want.
Good.
I hope
No, no,
I
I like even in medical field when we have conferences, the questions that I ask will let you breathe a little bit. I know I ask questions. I go under the skin, literally and figuratively. I'm a surgeon. So
Okay.
I ask questions like that. We've seen people complain about that, and I've had some colleagues of mine over the weekend. We're sitting and we're actually talking about that, and I realized actually we need you because we don't know much. And some of the questions that I'm poking so much came from one of the doctor colleague that I was with, and we're talking, over the weekend. So I realized we actually need you. So I'm asking this so that they can come clean. Because usually, what happens is this. I know that as human beings, we have this view of investing a lot on death than life itself.
Mm.
That's why you see people can leave you without bread and take that 80 rand and pay some kind of a financial institution in case you die. So they don't say, if I take 50 rand and buy bread and I'll have a change, and they let you die so that they can bury you, So that's why people invest much in death. But now, when you leave, you don't know that you suffer. Firstly, we've figured that it's better if you have a will. So don't even say you don't have anything. Once you start owning something, that thing, as small as it is, you must have a will. It's small for you, it's big for somebody else. It's small today, it might be big later. So just have a will so that people don't fight. That I would advise people to have a will. Otherwise, somebody will be appointed because you failed to do your job. You failed to say how things must be distributed. They're going to be distributed as somebody sees fit who's still alive, obviously. So the other thing that I wanted to ask you is this. I know that if I choose a lawyer, I'm choosing a lawyer now, not because I want to invest in debt. It's because I want to have a lawyer that will attend to my everything. But the actual question I'm asking is it advisable that the same lawyer who drafts, and you've said it, that if I can appoint another person. So if you feel, okay, this man knows a lot, I want that when I die, his job will be done, and then he can give to somebody who doesn't have any interest whatsoever of any sort to carry out. That can happen. But if you don't, the same one that you drafted a will with will be the executor. So you are also educating us that the person, whether the bank drafting, because there's some banks that gives you points for drafting a will with them, and they become executor. So it still gives you, which is what you're saying, it still gives you can choose. But if you don't choose, it means that if you trusted somebody to deal with your issues while you're alive, you trusted them to deal with the issues up until the better end and to act on behalf. So are you now saying I can draft a will with you? Let's just assume you're not an estate attorney. In this case, when I draft with you, I know you'll be able to deal with it till the better end. But let's say you are not an estate attorney, you are just an attorney or my lawyer. And then I draft a will with you. Can I also nominate, i.e., my brother or my firstborn or whatever, or my child to be executor of the will, to sort of be executor? So that means once I die, she will have to give you the right of attorney to execute if she or he likes you, or give it to the lawyer that they have. Let's say now I decide that my son is an executor, and when he's an adult, he decides, no, you know what, I know, Daddy, this is your lawyer, but I have a lawyer that I trust this side that I've been using for my own things. Can now my son decide, since now he's the principal executor appointed by the deceased, is i.e. me, then he can appoint another lawyer who didn't have the will, so the man or the woman has to hand over to another attorney. Is that possible?
Yes, certainly possible. But before I
I like
answer
my
that,
question, man. You gotta say.
yeah, see, I also like them because they get us going. I don't like to prepare for this kind of things because if I have prepared, I would not talk about things I've prepared. So when you engage me, things just flows because I haven't prepared anything. Um, I wanted to ask
Okay.
to add something to your previous question where maybe there's no trust about somebody else. I said to you, remember, there's
Yeah.
also the issue of the the banks and other trust companies. If a person does not have trust on an individual, you can't tell me you won't have a trust with the bank to say you appoint the bank as the executor to run everything because you had somebody assisting you. But there are complications. The banks have got their own set of rules in terms of which estates they want to administer. You can't go to Coney and draft a will and say, I nominate Standard Bank or Absa Bank. They need to assess you. They do like an estate planning to check what
Yeah.
assets we have and so on. There are certain estates, I think at the moment, some of the banks now, there's one that I know, they do not administer estates of less than 2 million. And if they do that pre-planning to see what assets we have because they think smaller states will waste their time and they need to check the cash flow. Will we have
Yeah.
enough money to cover for the administration expenses like your advertisement in the newspapers, your master's fees, the executor's fees? They check if you are fit to be their client. They can reject you. So you can't just go to somebody else and nominate a bank. They need to assess with themselves. You do the will with them according to their own rules. Do you understand? Though the will is has got the same structure in terms of the
Yeah.
act, but there are things they look for. There are things
Yeah.
they don't want to deal with. They don't want problems. We take
Okay.
anything that is and we sit with problems at the end and regret why did we take this estate in the first place. But then to answer to your second question, which was
Okay.
about what?
So what I wanted to ask you is this. Okay.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Go
I
ahead.
remember your second question was can you
Yeah.
nominate
Go ahead.
a sibling and so on. To answer
Yeah.
that, every September, I think last week I should have mentioned it. The Law Society introduced a National Wills Week. It runs for 5 days from Monday to Friday, where it's advertised that there are lawyers who are willing to give free wills to the people. Like in that week, we don't charge. You make appointments, and then we do wills for people for free during that week. And
Yeah.
in those wills, they say we are not allowed to take up executorship. People must not nominate us to do the will. So in all those wills, the National Wills Week, I ask them to nominate their family members and advise them. Your family members, when you die, they will go and look for an attorney
Yeah.
or the bank or whatever. That will be their agent. They will give them power of attorney to assist them. But if you want to nominate your son, you need to do that. You cannot nominate me. So that is possible. It's easier like that. And the family members nominated will have to go and look for the attorney or whoever can assist them with the processes. So if you
Okay.
don't want to
Um.
nominate an attorney, you are free to do that. It's your will. You choose who
Yeah.
you want to be your executor.
Okay. So what I also wanted to ask you, so that let's make it clear, and I'm glad that we're polishing on that. We're coming to your question, Fina, my co-host. We coming there to your question, my twin. So what I wanted to ask you is this: can the attorney that you have appointed, whether by default by setting a will or whoever that you decide you're going to appoint at that time, can that attorney that you have appointed ask for payments before everything is while we're in the process? We are still in the process. Can they ask for a certain amount to be charged or 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 whatever? Or is there any situation where you need to pay money to get money? Or all I'm asking is this: is my family members' estate going to cost me to have it? In short, just like that. Agar ke nyako bona gore ke tlo kry something and then se go se lokela go ntshwara mos. You tla go pitori wa tlhaloganya. Let's go.
Ke a tlhaloganya, but then I know you know the question you're asking me or ke problem, because I would not ask you about another doctor and so on. But I'll try to be, I don't want to get into trouble. I don't want to badmouth other people. But I'll try to be in the middle. Or let me speak about me and the law. The
Yeah,
law
speak about
says,
you. As you speak about you, I'm gonna share your details. Speak about you. Go on.
okay,
What do you
with
do?
me, my estate lines don't pay anything. I even mentioned it last week that when a client comes and say these are the assets, I'm able to see if this estate is more than 250 from the word go. And I'm able to see if there's sufficient money in the estate to cover for my fees. Do you understand? If you come with a bank statement, there's 15,000 in the account, I will not take your estate because that will be drained by the administration expenses and so on. So if you come and I see there's a nice balance in the APSA account, I don't worry. I know my money is secured. I will get it when the time is right. The law says you need to collect all the assets, pay the debts of the deceased, account to the master about what you have collected. Once the master have seen your liquidation and distribution account and approved it as correct, then you need to advertise it. The account is also advertised for 21 days. If there are no objections, then we can distribute the estate. That's where I take my fees, I pay the beneficiaries, I instruct the conveyancer to transfer the property. We all get paid. I think I said it last week. We all get paid at the same time. They get their money, I get my fees. But I did the estate because I saw there's money to pay for me. Remember, there was another question you asked about the estate account. In my office, no client controls the estate account. Remember, I'm the one that will apply for the letter of executorship at the Master of the High Court. I've got a power of attorney which empowers me to take control of the estate. Remember, I've bind myself at the master that I confirm that they will administer the estate in terms of the law and distribute it to finality according to the law. So how will I pay creditors if I don't have control of the estate account? How will I get money to advertise for creditors and all that? Do I always have to call the beneficiary and ask for 400 rand for government gazette and newspaper all the time? No, I take control. The beneficiaries can come. I always give them advances. If people come to me and say, but I was depending on my husband and I don't have nothing. I say, okay, mama, there's enough money in the estate, but you can only get it once the estate is finalized. But in the meantime, I can put my head on the block to say, I don't think I'll get into trouble if I give you 50,000 for now to push you until we finalize the estate. Because maybe she's the only beneficiary and there's nothing. But sometimes you need to weigh if there's a dispute in the estate, you can't give one person money because it will affect others. So I control the estate account to finality. The beneficiaries will be paid by me because I'm in control
Okay.
of the estate account. I do not
I
compromise.
can I can tell you, Sismina, you'd wish you given me this from the get-go part one. Nyabonga, this week you've given it to me. So like me, I'm gonna ask problematic questions because okay, Kabona hore. This thing is quite deep. Let me tell you, we are live on Sauma HD Radio. This is In His Grace and Mercy Enlightenment Corner. We live every Thursdays from 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. We're dealing with broad issues that you need to learn from. We call people who specialize the aspect in the field. Depending on what we're dealing with, this is what we do. And we bring it live to you without compromise. We extract. You'd even think I'm not a surgeon, I'm a dentist, because I extract. Well, I know. This is one of the doctors I was with during the weekend discussing the issues. That is the question we are here for. Because, hey, this question, it's very butata. And, and I don't know. They didn't know that I'm going to be hosting you. I also didn't know because I thought I was going to be busy and Fina's going to host. But let me tell you, the first part of this is on In His Grace and Mercy page. You'll find it on Facebook. You'll find it on YouTube. It's there. It's going to stay there. So whenever you want to see part one of this, you can, where they break it down to us about the will, and they are breaking it down very well, the two ladies. Then this is part two. That's why now Sylvia Shisa about that. So now that we've answered the question who controls the estate, let's deal with this first. And I'm gonna deal with other issues where there are since you didn't prepare, I want your mind to think about the kids that people don't divulge, and then when they touch the ground, somebody appears who is not in the will, or somebody's in the will, they've never been seen, they are not known during the funerals, they didn't come, and then I know that is going to delay the sharing or dissolving of the estate. And how do we tackle that? But while your mind is still thinking about that, let me go on my question column and comment column. It's hot a bit. We are booze. Why does it take long? Why does it take long to resolve the issues, even when there is a letter issued by the master? What's your answer?
Okay. I wonder how long is long? I'm asking myself, how long is long?
Okay, so
But then
what becomes a delay? What becomes a delay? Let's ask it.
Yeah,
What
okay.
delays things?
Yeah, but then people I don't have the nice word. But people always like to fight for things they don't understand. Let me explain the estate process itself, but it's long. Like I
Okay.
told you, just time frames. I'll estimate the time frames. Firstly, once I've consulted with the family, we send everything to the Master of the High Court. for a formal appointment of the executor, right? It depends on the master's office. Sometimes things are quicker, sometimes slow, sometimes they get problems. There was a time where the Department of Justice system was hacked, and we will wait forever for the letters of executorship to be issued.
Yeah.
And there'll be problems, somebody COVID and so on. There'll be other problems. So there's no guaranteed time how long we expect the letter from the master. But once the letter is back from the master, you need to open an estate account and write to the institutions. I'm not going to say the bank's name, but there are two banks which I hate myself.
Please don't say them because you'll be advertising for free for them. That's why you realize I don't say
No,
names.
it's a bad review.
Before I say names.
But what I'm saying is, there is most attorneys, if there are attorneys listening, they know the number one bank that we have a problem with. Ne? They don't have time frames. They tell you they will reply to you when they are ready. Because all we ask from the banks is that here's everything. Close the accounts of the deceased that you have and pay the money to the estate account. I'm telling you now, with that number one bank, 6 months is too little for that. They will tell you, we've got a backlog. There is no time for them. You will follow up for the whole year if possible. Those who know will know which bank I'm talking about. But then others are better, but they also take time. So if you can't finalize the estate if you've got other banks have paid, but there's this one that haven't paid. Remember, you need to account to the master and say, here are all the assets of the deceased. This is the money I received from A bank. This is from B bank. That is from C bank. And this is from this policy company, insurance, and so on. If you don't have all those things together, you haven't finalized the estate. So the delay is caused by collection of all the assets. If you haven't collected everything, you can't proceed. You need to wait for, because now you'll be accounting for half of the things. You can't. You need to wait so that you can distribute the estate equally to the beneficiaries. So your distribution will not be fair because you have not collected everything. And from there on, there are other processes. Remember, we need to account to the master after that and draft what we call a liquidation and distribution account, which lists all the assets, all the liabilities, and how the estate is going to be, who's going to be paid, how much, and so on. Who's taking the house, who's taking that. Then the master must still check it. We also wait for the master to approve the account. If it's not approved, then it's useless. The master must still approve the account and give you permission to advertise the very same account. It must also be advertised for any objections. Because you can draft an account and somebody objects and say, no, but I'm also Mr. B's child and I'm not included. Or I'm also his second wife. He paid lobola for me, but nobody says anything about me. So the law allows us to advertise the LND and say, these are the assets, these are the liabilities, and these are the beneficiaries, and that's how it's going to be distributed. Anyone who has an objection needs to raise the objection. We must wait for that period to expire as well before you can distribute. Do you understand? This is the process. It takes long.
Yeah, no, look, let me just tell you, if you are waiting for such things, just make sure that you hit gym, you eat healthy, and whatever you relax, because it's going to be direct, so that you don't die while you're waiting. So, Mohau Tinani, thank you, Baba. Thank you for your question. In case the beneficiaries, the nominees pass on, what happens? Somebody appointed you, and before the will could be changed, and then the person passed on, or they passed on just in around the same what happens?
Okay, are you talking about the, okay, let me cover, because I'm not sure. They said beneficiaries and nominees. I'm not sure if nominees, they're talking about nominees as the people nominated to benefit in the will, or the executor, but I'll cover in both. Say the will nominates
Thank
an
you.
executor and the executor dies. So the will is still valid. Nothing changes in terms of what the deceased wanted to happen to his assets. The only thing that changes is that now there's no executor. Now, the beneficiaries will have to nominate the executor of their own because the one nominated by the deceased has passed on. Right. I've answered
Yeah.
that part. Now I'm going to the
Yeah.
beneficiaries. If one of the
All right.
beneficiaries pass away before they could take up their inheritance,
Yeah.
their inheritance, their portion will go to their children.
Okay.
If I'm a beneficiary in a will and I die before I get my inheritance, it will automatically go to my children in equal shares. If I have 5 children, which I don't have now, if I have 5 children and they will share, they will distribute my share. If I was entitled to 20% in the will, my children will all share my 20%. They will divide
Okay.
my 20% to all my 5 children.
Yeah.
Do you understand that?
All right. That's good. I think, Mr. Chinani, you are answered there. If kunento shotayo uzobuya uphinde lapha on a comment column send the question. Udokotela Sidondi, I work with this man. We were together during the weekend discussing these things. That's why this is the question we are here for. Nakoge, would you still take an estate if the cost of the estate is worth 300K and then your fees are 250?
Yo, Dogotela Kwezi. And when you were together weekend, didn't you show them a podcast there last week? Because we discussed what the executors' fees are. You should have seen. It's everywhere. You can Google it, doctor. The executors' fees are 3.5% of the total assets. So if the estate is worth 300,000, the executor's fees is 3.5% of 300,000. 3. It's not even 10%, which 10% is 30,000. It's very, estate doesn't have money. We do this out of the goodness of our hearts to help people. That is why I told you one bank doesn't take estates of less than 2 million. They say, no, you can go to these attorneys, they will help you. We don't deal with such small estates. And that's it. I don't know where you get the 250,000 from. It's an insult, doc. I don't know.
Okay. I think I know where you get it because you spoke about 250 or whatever, or somebody also spoke about it in our topic. But don't worry, I think I understand where you get it. But I'm actually just excited that they're getting 3 point something and they are getting less than the pastors are getting. Anyway, let's go on. Let's go on. If you don't have any children,
Oh, okay. I believe Fina is answering on the question of the beneficiary who dies and the inheritance goes to the children. If the
yeah.
person did not have children, it will go back to be distributed to the other siblings. That's the law.
Oh, but Olu.
Batuhulu,
Okay, well,
what are Batuhulu?
okay, no,
Grandchildren?
yeah.
No, if you
If
don't have
if the
children,
children
you
are gone,
can't have grandchildren.
of course. But if the children are gone,
Oh, if the children are gone. Yes, there's this thing of saying with the estate, the inheritance, it goes down, down, down. Do you understand?
good.
Yes, they will not inherit from, if my children dies and they left grandchildren, it will go
Yeah,
to them, but they will also share according to their parents' share. Remember, I
yeah,
said if I have 5 children, they will share my 20%.
yeah,
So if one of the children dies and was entitled to, I don't know, what is the portion?
5%.
Yeah, 1/5 of my 20%.
Yeah.
They will share the 1/5 of their parent that their parent was supposed to get. You see, the law is very technical. I think some attorneys might disagree with me now because I did not emphasize this point. If a person dies before, say it's my will, if a child of mine died before me, the child has predeceased me. So when I die and my child died a year before me and so on, at the time of my death, and that's logic, at the time of my death, that child did not have any inheritance because he had already died. He died with his rights to inherit long before I died. I think you understand. So that child has predeceased me. At the time of my death, there was nothing left for him or her. So there's nothing going to his or her children as well. Only those surviving me. I mean, le ka Sesotho re bjalo, mojalefa. Mojalefa ke motho a phelang. The person who survived me is my descendant, or is my beneficiary. If you died before, you did not inherit. You can't inherit from the grave. You can't. Your rights were ended at the time that you passed on.
Okay, I want us to wrap this, but I'm going to ask,
So
because I know I'm taking advantage.
According to its own merits.
There is no program after this in Sauma HD radio, so I'm going to drag this just a little bit and ask the powers that be on the other side that they bear with me. There's 2 questions or 3 questions that I want to deal with before we let the attorney go away. I am with Attorney Ntsoko. Attorneys Incorporated is the company. The details are there. You want to get hold of her. We are having this discussion, this nice discussion with her. In case you are listening through Sauma HD radio, you don't have the details. To get hold of her office, 012 700 0325. The email address is info at cnntsoko, cntsoko, attorneys.co.za. The website is www.cnntsoko.attorneys.co.za. On Facebook is Attorney Ntsoko Attorneys Incorporated. In case you want to get hold of her, you know, we have to share her details, because she's breaking it down to us. And lento and the meat, they started not to taste well, because I want to address a question. A question la. I asked the question of the kids. Let's deal with the kids so that we can put it to rest. I have kids. I didn't divulge. The kids are in the kid that I didn't divulge, or kids I didn't divulge, that in the will. And it becomes a surprise when they say, oh, and there is another son there who belongs to this man, and this man acknowledged the son in the will. And the son was not there. No one knows where the son is. One. That's one part of the question. Another question is this: there is a will there. But after this man passed on, bayeza bathi hey nalo mntwana lo ngewakhe kulelo thambo lihlafuna kulo, we also want a peace. There is a will. The will doesn't include this son or this child. After passing, you know, they always say that if you want to know how many kids a man has, wait up until they die. All of them come to bury their father, which is their right, which is so good. Last respect. But for other people, it's going to be a shock of their life. While they're supposed to be crying, they're also surprised, you know, in that mess. First question, I repeat. The child is in the will. No one knows where the child is. They never even showed up during the funeral. No one knows. But I know I put the child in the will. Second question, the child is not in the will. They show up with the child and say, nah, you know, you watch. We've got to prove that he used to come and see this child, or he was supporting this child for some reason. He didn't put him in the will, but he was supporting this child. So we don't know what reason he didn't put him in the will, but there he was supporting this child. We have a proof every month he was putting money, or he was paying money in cash, whatever that it is. Slungi set it up. Bese sidile ngelo question akamfundisi Khatebe. Mfundisi Khatebe, hold on a bit. We'll deal with your question afterwards. Over to you, man.
Now, I'm trying to think of how to break this down, but I will have an answer. Don't worry. One, you see, now we're talking about the situation, guessing, depending on how the will is structured. If a will is brought and say, I leave everything to my children, that covers any other child that has been proven to be the child of the deceased, because it says all my children. But if you say children were specified in this case, and there's this name which they don't know where the child is, that child, even if they don't know, I would advise even any other attorney administering the estate to tackle it this way. When you distribute, there'll be a portion left according to the will for the unknown child. Okay, there's a name. You don't know where they are, right? There's a name in the will. So even when you do your distribution account, you will say this is a portion of the child. But if the child does not come forward, it's not for us to give the share of the child to other children. You need to, that is the reason why I say with me, I control the estate account so that everything is done accordingly. Imagine if estate account is controlled by somebody else. They might take all the money and not distribute it equally to everyone. But if everything is under my control, I'll make sure everything is done properly. Now, the portion of that child will be paid to the guardian's fund. In the master's office, there are different departments. There's a department called guardian's fund. This is where you put money for children who are less than 18 or unidentified funds. You'll see there's a show on TV which shows barring something. There's a show where somebody looks for children and says there's an inheritance for you at the master's office. You need to go and get that money because the money has been put there. People can go and claim it. That's how best you can do. Whenever that child knows, and it happens that they get to know, the money will be safely at the guardian's fund, earning interest. By the year they come, the money would have increased with interest, and it's there. So you did not deprive the child of that money. You did not give it to other people. The money has not disappeared. The money is safely with the master's office at the Department of Justice. So you can place the money safely there until they come and claim it. If they get to know somewhere that you handle the estate, at least you can tell them where the money is. They will go and claim it at the Master of the High Court, at the Guardian's Fund.
Okay, that's good. The second question, I'm glad that those who are about the Mali, the government with corruption, they don't get to that money. I'm glad. There is a will. The will didn't include this child. The will was specific, names of the children, and these are the ones that everything needs to be distributed onto, and another one comes. But that person is not in the will, or that child is not in the will. How do you deal with it?
Oh, okay. Now, before I proceed, I just saw someone put the name of the TV show I was talking about, Ifalami. That's the one. Yes, that's the one where people go and look for Ifalabo there. So we will place that money
Thank
there.
you.
Whenever it happens, they will go and get it. Or Ifalami will get to them and they know there's like 50,000 yana lying there for them. They'll go and get it. Or a million for that matter. Okay.
Okay.
Now your question is about a child that just comes and the child is not in the will.
Yeah.
Now, the issue is every child has got a right to an inheritance. And when that child comes and says, I'm the child of this person, and there's no will, that child can lodge a claim. Remember, there's the master of the High Court who oversees whatever we do with the estate. The master can make a decision regarding how that should be. They will lodge a claim against the estate and say, I have a claim against the estate of my father, and I was not included. And then that will be dealt with the master, will call a meeting and try to sort out how that thing can be included. Depending, if a child is a minor, then it works very simple. The mother of the child will lodge a maintenance claim against the estate, and it will be calculated, until the age of majority to say what this happens. I once met a case where the will did not include that particular child because that child was a minor anyway. The child ended up taking everything in the estate because her maintenance claim, that child was like, I think it was, I can't remember, but less than 3 years old. The claim was taken and done properly with the actuaries. When you get an actuary to calculate the inflations and all that until the child could have turned 18 or to 21 and so on. And the amount that was calculated, it was done by a professional, cannot be disputed unless they challenge the actuary and to challenge an actuary, you need to bring the calculations by another actuary to say, this one sees them like this, not like that. And the amount that was there was so huge that it could take up that small estate and everyone in the world. Because remember, the claims against the estate are paid first, and the beneficiaries gets what is left after the creditors have been paid. So there was this big claim of maintenance in the estate that took up everything that was left. The very same people nominated in the will did not get anything because there was nothing left for them. That claim took priority. That child was still very young and still had a long way to be maintained by his or her father. So
Okay.
there are things that will shock you.
Okay. So it's best if you put the child in the estate to say this is what they're going to have. Otherwise, it's going to be a claim. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because you get to actually that is a clever idea because now you get to decide the inheritance they need to get. But if you did not, the law will do it for you, as I always say. Like people who die without leaving the will. We will follow the law. The law gives that child a right to claim maintenance up to the age of majority.
Okay, good. Last question. Hey, I'm asking problematic questions here. Hey, we learn every day. That's so true. Hey, I'm still saying thank you, sis, that you gave me this platform to broadcast today. I nearly dived away from it because of work commitments, but yeah, thank you. Let's deal with Mfundis. How does it work if both parents have a house, then one parent died and there is children, and the parent who's still alive makes a will that the house is given to one of the children, and after the parent also died, the other one, now there's a conflict between the siblings, who is the owner of the house? There we go. This is another difficult one.
Okay, I think I need to
Thank
have
you,
that question on screen. Yes. Okay, when both parents dies, Ne? Remember, if these people are married in community of property, if they're married in community of property, they own 50% each on the house. So the surviving parent, depending on the value of the estate, remember last week when I explained if it's big and so on, the other parent can end up inheriting the 50% of the other spouse. Right. Now, the second parent, now the one who is living, is now owning 100% of the property. Now, the law says if you own a property, it's your choice who you want to give it to. You can give it to the neighbor, you can give it to one child, you can, the way that you want. Nobody's going to choose for you what to do with your assets. So, if the parent has chosen one child, that will happen depending on if this parent did make a will. Now, the second parent is the 100% owner. And if he makes a will and chooses another child, one child from all of them, that's how the will be distributed when he dies. But if he did not make a will, then it will be distributed to all the children equally.
Yeah, but you see, issue here. It's their home. Or something. Or because they are all the siblings of the home and one is owning the property. That is where the problem is. So can the law help us with this conflict? Because let me tell you, I might have a problem if the home where I grew up, my father, I'm just making an example, mine as pastor, they decided to my brother owns a home. It translates into us not having a home. Do you understand? So that is the conflict. Now we are going home, but this home is actually owned by our sister or our brother. In contrast to when the parents pass on, we are all owning the home. No one can decide, I could wait, I can get motokamo, are hack school fee. No one can do that because kaufela and then we own the home. So can the law help us in that regard where one person is given the home where people grew up in and they still want to come back there and there? There's also a brother who thinks things are not working out well, I'm going to go back home. But the home is owned by, can they contest that if they want a share, even when there is a will to say this one must inherit the house? Can they contest?
Now, my answer will be like this. Black people like to talk about a family home. There is no such in law. Family home. Every house has got an owner. And when you have an asset, and that's the purpose of the estate, Lifa must be inherited. So if the owner of the house chose the son to be the owner, he's the owner. If he gets married and dies, his wife will be the owner, not the siblings. It goes like that. You inherit from your spouse, you inherit from your parent, and so on. If the deceased excluded his other children from the will, that was his choice. We don't know the reasons why. So their parent did not care about them, where they will have a home and so on, because he chose one person to be the owner, and it was done accordingly, and the title deed was transferred into one child's name. That is that child's property. Nobody can stop him. If he wants to evict them, he will evict them. And no court will say, no, you can't evict your siblings. He will show them the title deed. They say, you are the owner. You've got a right to say, if you don't want these people in your house, you don't want them. It's his property. It's his property. There's nothing like family house and so on.
But I see, we so what is, this thing of family house? So what is the bad thing about him? If like we have a family house, both our parents passed on and many other people. So I can nicely leave my house and drive home without asking for consent from somebody else. I can do certain things at home, I can do certain things at home without even having to ask Mass for wait for permission. I can just inform them I'm gonna make a structural change to the house or whatever. But now you are now saying to us that it's actually not a good idea not to inherit that house. I'm just asking because I thought it was sitting properly like that, because then I want a boss, because
You see, the problem started when the father made a will and chose to give one child the house. That's where the problem started. So there's nothing the law can do because the owner of the house has decided. And it's a family thing. Why would he evict his siblings? Why not live with them, even though he's the owner? He'll deal with it later when they are no longer alive or they are self-sustainable, they have their own houses and so on. You see, that's the problem. The father shouldn't have given one child the house in the first place and left it for all of them. You know, there's nothing nice about the house. A house can be owned by more than one person, unlike a car. You can't leave a car to 3 people, but a house can have multiple people in the
Yes.
title deed. That is the simplest and fairest thing to do instead of leaving it to one child, because it's that young man's choice to evict the siblings because it's his house. But you cannot stop him from doing it if his own father gave him the right to the house alone. So that's a personal thing. It's not a legal thing. It's not the issue of the law. Please don't bother lawyers about family feuds.
Good.
Those are the things they need to solve as a family. Ba bitsa bo koko ga mashashane kwa, ba tshware
Yeah.
meeting and so on. This is nothing that the law should get involved in. The law cannot stop you to do what you. I mean, the one that was given the house owns the property. He's got his name on the title deed. The law can't stop him to do what he wants. If he wants to sell it, he can sell it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is In His Grace Enlightenment Corner with your very own. I am Pastor Kekana. I am Dr. Kekana. Yeah, with Dravidi Legend. I would like to thank you. I'd like to thank you so much for the time that you've taken for you to educate us like that and take our questions. And I would like, I'm sure everyone who's listening everywhere from whatever platform you are, there's many streaming platforms. It's like many rooms in this house where people are chilling and listening. And I'm sure you guys from wherever you're chilling and listening to, you appreciate what she brought to us and the knowledge. This is part 2, and now we get to address couple of issues and clear things. And Ufina says the family law is something we need to understand. So Rekopa Attorney to avail herself for a session every month to tackle the issues. So I think the MK team will discuss with you, so that you can avail yourself there and there. We tackle certain issues. You said you like giving back to the community. This is part of it. You're giving back to the community of Sauma HD Radio, the community of In His Grace and Mercy, and we really appreciate that. So I hope you will honor that. That once a month we come in. We have a psychologist corner where we have a therapist coming, a senior therapist who comes and discuss with us. We also had another attorney who's also with us and discussing with us. We have Abafundis, we have the elders, we have the coaches that comes through on a Thursday to teach us, the financial people that comes in to teach us. This is what we specialize in, things that we realize we didn't know at our level. And then that means all the lame people like us don't know those things, and we meet them every day. So we'd like to thank you on In His Grace and Mercy to avail yourself, and also to avail your office details, which I'm going to leave here as I pray and close. We have 25 minutes outside the time that is supposed to be broadcasting, but you would understand this is something that we have to put down, and so that we can understand what happens. I hope moving forward we are now educated about how we want things to go. in my career in forensic, it says the dead teaches the living. So through us doing a post-mortem on the dead, they tell us what they couldn't say before they died, meaning what happened. So in this case, you have the will to outline everything that you want to see happen when you leave. And that, I think, will bring the most peace, because people won't be telling one another when you are not working, you don't have anywhere to go, so therefore we give you more money. Or since when you don't have kids, we can give you 3 rand. The other ones have 10 kids, they can be given 40 rand. You know, those things will end up causing enemies around the siblings, you know. So the best thing is that you make a will, and that will be sort of one of your final words in whatever happens to your property. And I think let's nominate attorneys or nominate banks if you want to, but use this, especially if you know, whatever that you're leaving behind, it's tangible, that somebody can take it into their world, or, you know, do that. Please do that. I urge you to do it, because it seems as if this is the better way according to what we're educated. Don't leave this, you'll never know. The Bible says death comes like a criminal when you least expect it, and then it knocks in on your door. So you can never really say this is the time, except the time that you have now. So don't postpone it. Create time and create such things. Your kids need it. The peace needs it. So for us to have peace, we need to have you say whatever that you say. And basically 3.6%. I'm going to pray. This is in His grace and mercy. I am Dr. Kekana. I am Pastor Kekana. I want to thank God for this opportunity. For 3 seconds. Lord God, this evening you still remain mighty and powerful. Lord, we thank you. We thank you, God, for allowing us to learn. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to be alive, to learn, and to progress and to continue. Lord, as we come to the end of the session, Lord, I speak blessings over Attorney Ntsoko. I speak progress, Lord. I speak growth over her company, Lord. I speak prosperity over her company, Lord. I also speak wisdom over whatever that she does and the issues she tackles all the time of the family estate and the issues of life. Lord, we bless you. We bless your name. We lift your name high. There is no any other better name we can run to, or any other power we can run to except your power. Lord, we thank you for the privilege to be called your sons and daughters, Lord. We thank you this evening forevermore, Lord. Amen and amen. Till we meet again, let's meet on Sunday. Siyabonga. Siskoni, siyabonga for the opportunity you gave us to learn, and for you to be able to avail yourself, take your time of the family that you have to teach us. And we really, 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 really thank you, and we love you as in His grace and mercy. As I'm checking out, this is in His grace and mercy. I am Dr. Kekana. I am Pastor Kekana. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yes. 2.
Film HD Radio.
In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
Broadcasting around the world on the World Wide Web. This radio station.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show